Hi, Jon Velie, CEO of OnlineVisas, attorney at Velie Law Firm, and I'm here to talk about immigration solutions during the coronavirus. We've been doing these every day into our third week, and we're here to talk about immigration. We're here to talk about life. We're here to talk about everything going on in this historic time, the coronavirus pandemic. None of us in our lifetime have ever gone through anything like this before. We are truly in strange places. We haven't seen anything like this maybe since the 1918 flu, and I don't believe there's too many of us still alive for that. I don't remember hearing too many stories about it, but pictures of those folks with masks on and piling up of dead people, and boy, it'll be interesting to see how history looks at this and what others ask us about this time we're going through. So hope you're doing well, hope you're sheltering in place and doing the right thing. Today I had to push back a little bit. I'm in a t-shirt, right? Boomtown Sturfers, that's our age-based longboard gang, and a couple of Sturfers had to go out today and sturf during lunchtime. David Kelso and I, we haven't seen each other in a little bit, and that was because John Prine died last night. And John Prine is very special to us because he sings, amongst many other great songs, Illegal Smile. Illegal Smile is a great song that the OU, University of Oklahoma Rugby Club, sings after every single match that it plays, and it has been doing it since the late 1970s. So I started in 1982. My first game, we sang it. Many of us, the first time we ever heard the song was when we sang it in a circle, arm in arm with our mates, and they were some joyous times. I mean, beating some incredible foes. We're awesome. Beating the University of Texas, always a good time. Beating Air Force finally after many times not. Beating Aspen in Aspen on our 25th anniversary on their mountaintop. Claimed that we were playing for their mountain. Hung about it, raved about it with Ed Haggerty and all of our mates in RVs after the match, sitting at the pitch. But we also sang it with every game we've lost. And we've had some tough ones. I can remember the Dallas Harlequins coming up to town and calling it a recruiting trip. A number of our folks had gone down there. David White had gone down. He said, we're on a recruiting trip. And they wanted Haas, who was my roommate at the time, and a hooker who played for the West. We'd gone on tour to New Zealand, and they wanted Haas. They beat us 50 points to nil in the A-side game and 40 to nil in the A-side game and 50 to nil in the B-side game. So we take this 90-0 drubbing, and we sang Illegal Smile after that too. And Haas went on his way, went down to Dallas, started playing for the Quins, infected them with his Oklahoma style, and many mates on that team now after years of great rivalries. So look, talking about immigration, talking about John Prine. I listened to some John Prine songs this morning. I listened to When I Get to Heaven, which is an incredible song, so upbeat. I put that out on Facebook today. If you get a chance, Google that or take a listen to When I Get to Heaven. Drinking on a cocktail, vodka and ginger ale, kissing the pretty girl on the tilt-a-wheel. It's an incredible song about meeting his dad and his mother's sisters who had all the love. And what a great song about when you die. You know, to have sung or to play that the day after a guy like that that's so meaningful dies. There's some great ones. World's Greatest Love Song. Just take a listen to that. There's some great John Prine songs. So anyway, just bummed about that. So Kelso and I said, let's push back. Let's go out. We social distanced, but we went and longboarded, went over to the clubhouse, sang Illegal Smile at the clubhouse, just the two of us. Seemed very appropriate in this time of not being able to be with our mates. And weirdly, on March 13th, Friday, March 13th, we were to have the OU Rugby Hall of Fame induction, and we were going to induct Carl Stump, Luke Turner, and Sadie Houston into our Hall of Fame. And at the end of that, just like everything else we do, we sing Illegal Smile. And it didn't happen, but it was so close when we had to cancel, a few people came to town. So we went to Othello's, we hung out in small groups, and we didn't sing Illegal Smile. And, you know, a lot of famous people have caught this disease. Kevin Durant, Prince Charles, Prime Minister of England, Tom Hanks. But the guy to die is John Prine. Not the first one, unfortunately. Not the first person to die. I absolutely don't mean to say that. But a lot of famous people have gotten it. And the one that sort of that's meant so much to us and everybody in our community, you know, died today. And it was quite sad. So lots of Facebook love for John Prine. A lot of people said never heard of John Prine, and then there's John Prine everywhere. But man, what an unsung hero! One of the great lyricists you'll ever hear. Dylan had some great things to say about him. And, you know, listen to any John Prine album and you'll hear some great stuff. I think I've seen things. John Prine holds up a mirror to the 60s and 70s better than anybody else ever had. He also sang songs about Vietnam, and a real interesting song about Sam Stone and the hole in Daddy's arm where the money goes. Poignant songs. I mean, you know, real songs. You know, and we were talking about it, you know, John Prine never sang Illegal Smile with us. We never had that opportunity, never ran into him. And I posted on Facebook today, I bet he doesn't even know. And then Kelso said, well, I met him. I went backstage and I told him there's this rugby team in Norman, Oklahoma that sings Illegal Smile after every one of its matches, and it's been doing it since the 70s. And he's thinking he's going to hear this, yeah, that's awesome. And he goes, didn't really much care. Maybe he was a little frustrated he wouldn't get paid by us or something. And so it all comes back to, you know, have you ever met your heroes? You know, it's usually quite a letdown, and I can tell you why it would be, right? So imagine you just hold somebody on this really high standard, like I love, you know, whoever, right? Movie star, author. I love Hunter S. Thompson, right? I'll tell you the Hunter S. Thompson story in a second because it ties into this. But, you know, whenever you meet those person, I mean, you know, Dave used to say that, you know, people just gush over them. You know, it's like, oh, I love you, man. You're blah, blah, blah. What do you say to that? You're just a regular person. You don't even know this person, much less love them. So it's an unfair relationship, right? When someone meets their heroes, they're almost invariably let down. So I was thinking, wouldn't it have been great to meet John Prine and sing it with him? And you imagine in my head him with his guitar playing it and us circled around singing it. That, you know, the guy would probably be bothered by the whole thing, right? So it's really weird and interesting. So anyway, man, his wife is named Naomi, and she's Irish, Kelso tells me. And she also had coronavirus, but she survived. And one of the things I want to do, so if anybody out there knows how to get in touch with John Prine's people, I'd love to reach out to his widow for a pair of his boots. And the reason is, when we've had death in our rugby club, we hang the boots of our fallen brothers and sisters from our rafters, right? And we have a wake for them, and we drink, and we tell stories, and they've been wonderful. Every one of them has been wonderful, even though the deaths, some of them weren't. I can remember the Geese when he died, and then we had our varsity alumni shortly after that, and we inducted his sons, the Geese, into our Hall of Fame. He was going to go in anyway with his brother, Gordon, and we give the inductees into our Hall of Fame a camel-haired jacket that says OU Rugby Hall of Fame, and we got him for his boys. And we draped these jackets on his boys, I mean literally within days of their father's death. And the Geese was a great friend of ours, and one of the hardest men you'll ever meet. One of the hardest rugby players I've ever met. We played on the All-Americans together, but we lived life together, and man, no one lived it harder than the Geese. And so when we inducted him into the Hall of Fame and gave his sons the jackets, and his brother was there being inducted with him, we sang Illegal Smile. And it always gave us goosebumps. And when John Prine, he died, right? And this is, every one of those songs is John Prine. And there's no other musician that we've done that for. And it's really weird. Rugby is full of the greatest traditions. You know, there's so many. Every club has them. But the two greatest traditions I know in rugby are the haka at the beginning of the games and Illegal Smile sung after them. And, you know, we've sung them from when our mates have committed suicide, like JT Grant. We've sung them when guys like Tom Morgan, who was getting his life back together, got in a car wreck and he died, buried him in his kit. We sang it then when Hal 9000 died, when David Rocket died. when Sue Bryant died. We always sang Illegal Smile. And now John Prine has died. And that's why Kelso and I went to the clubhouse, the site of all those wakes, and sang that. And I would hope one day we can get John Prine's boots and hang him with the rest of our boots. And I would love nothing more than to meet his wife who survived this and sing this song to her with my mates, because her husband meant so much to us. But that's famous people, and they very seldomly work out like that. But if that could happen, that would be just an amazing thing, and kind of gives you hope in these cathartic times. But I was going to talk about trying to meet our heroes, right? So Hunter S. Thompson. I always wanted to meet Hunter S. Thompson. He lives in Aspen. He lived in Woody Creek, and on a great weekend when I went to Aspen without a team, Beej Lamborn was our one of our rugby coaches at Cal Berkeley. And Beej and I just hopped a plane and went to Aspen together, no team. And there was one team there. San Francisco didn't have enough players, and Sacramento didn't have enough players. So they put together one team, and me and David Millington from OU joined those teams, and we won Ruggerfest. And it's the only time I've ever won it. When you win Ruggerfest, you get a mug, and every bar in Aspen will fill that mug up all night long. So funny story, my dad says, well, I'll keep the mug for you. I'll bring it back home, right? Because he was living in Oklahoma. I was in California. And he's like, yeah, you don't want to break the mug. So he takes the mug. I go out. I didn't know about all the beers. So Mark Deaton, another Cal guy, just lets me use his mug. And we're just sharing it and having fun. We're dancing on the tables at the J Bar, just living life as well as you can live it. And so the next day, the Woody Creek Tavern is having its 25th anniversary. Woody Creek is where Hunter S. Thompson lives. So we go to the Woody Creek Tavern with the OU Old Boys. So my dad and the OU Old Boys had gone up there, and they played Aspen Ruggerfest, and the OU Old Boys won also. So we're multiple victors. We're multiple champions. We go to the Woody Creek Tavern. We're just waiting for Hunter S. Thompson to show up. He doesn't show up. It's like that book, Waiting for Godot, right? That's a French novel, a philosophical, rant of waiting for God, and God never shows up, right? Well, I'm not saying Hunter S. Thompson's God, but he was our hero, and we wanted to meet him. But he never came, but we ended up having this most spectacular time. First of all, there was a live band outside, and they're playing all these great songs, including Can I Get a Witness? And we're singing that at the top of our lungs. And they had all these balloons, right? And they had so many hot air balloons, or helium balloons, that we're getting there, and we're tying them onto our sunglasses, and they're floating in front of our eyes, kind of like this. So, like, if I have if I have balloons on my glasses, this is a reenactment, everyone. It's a reenactment of the Woody Creek Tavern waiting for Hunter S. Thompson thing. So balloons holding up sunglasses like that. So there we are, OU rugby team, enjoying some Bachman Turner Overdrive and other live songs, wearing sunglasses, floating on their heads, champions of Aspen Ruggerfest, and just having the time of our lives. Hunter S. Thompson never showed up. And you know what? It was probably a good thing, because everything I've heard about Hunter S. Thompson when you meet him is he was a vicious, nasty man. And, he would probably be vicious and nasty to somebody coming up and say, hey, Hunter S. Thompson, I love you. You're the greatest. He'd probably just cut you to shreds. So I get to keep him as my hero, because I'm not big enough to be cut to shreds by Hunter S. Thompson in a bar and continue to like him afterwards. So I haven't met John Prine. I never met John Prine. But he has meant so much to me and my friends, I can't put it into words. That's why we went longboarding today. We got out, we broke a sweat, we stayed 6 feet away from each other, but it was needed. And if you're not getting out and working out in the sun, do it. No one's saying you can't do that. You can do that. I think most places. I know in my state you can. But, getting out and working out is good for the soul. It helped me. Sorry that I'm so informal wearing a T-shirt today, but it's a weird day. So on that, that's kind of where we are. And on the immigration front, hi, Kim Cornell, Michael Keating, Mike Stanaway. Good to see you. Patrick Guthrie would love to have you film the moment. Pat Guthrie is one of the foremost guys in media I know. Pat, you know, I've been on his show before when he had the rugby channel. If you guys ever saw that, it was part of the soccer channel, and it was a bar, you know, with pints of beer, and we would talk about rugby, or he'd talk about rugby. He invited me in to talk about rugby immigration one day, and it was fantastic. We brought Pat up. We became quick friends. We helped get a visa for Pat's buddy Dallin Stanford. You may know Dallin, probably the top commentator or most entertaining commentator in rugby worldwide today. Here in the United States, Pat brought him over, married a movie star, and went on to be a great rugby promoter. And Pat was his mentor and brought him in. And Pat came out and did a Big 12 rugby tournament here. And Pat was going to help us do the Red River Rugby challenge or championship between OU and Texas A&M that was canceled, unfortunately. But Pat would love it if we could ever do a wake for John Prine. And I know you're a big John Prine fan. I saw you post some things on there today. That's really fantastic. And I think you're looking for the great lyrics, and so many of them. So many great lyrics that John Prine had, maybe the greatest lyricist of all time, and definitely one of the least known. So on that, turning to more bad news, I've been using the World Health Organization stats, right? So you're getting different stats on people out there and on what's going on. So if you really want the most unbiased stats, World Health Organization is beyond political pale, and they will track every country in the world and who reports those back to them, and they do it in real time. So as of 2 o'clock, I think, probably Greenwich time, there was 1.356,780 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 79,385 deaths. So, look, the number keeps getting higher. I think I said 1.4 yesterday, but that was from a different source, and that's why I'm saying that. I think you got to go to the source right now, World Health Organization. And, look, I want to talk on something about that. We've got to not politicize this thing. It's hard not to. We got a political year. But you know what? Listen to doctors. I mean, that's all I'm going to say. Doctors know more than politicians do on this sort of stuff. So don't take any medical treatment, supplement, or something because a politician told you to do it. First of all, that's just dumb. Second of all, you know, you need to get that advice from your doctor. Not even Dr. Fauci telling you what you should take, all right? Talk to your own doctor. With telemedicine right now, it's not hard to do. With COVID virus, you can be tested for free, right? So maybe you can find a telemedicine piece that asks them, here are my symptoms, what can I take? There's been some discussion about preventative medication. The hydrochloroquine, I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, is one that people are saying you can take ahead of time, right? And you know what's the big deal if it doesn't work, you know? But it does have some side effects, and you should talk to your doctor about it, right? I'm not going to say it works or doesn't work. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not even disagreeing with those who say you should take it. But all I'm suggesting, talk to a doctor before you take anything medical for any symptom, right? You never know what your own genetic makeup is that you could really get sick and die. Don't do that. It's just a dumb thing to do. So, you know, on that note, that's my quasi-political note. You know, talk to a doctor if you see that going in. Some other things in immigration. So USCIS had closed. It's open for mail-in visas, right? So if you have a visa and it's been mailed in, they're still processing those. We're getting approvals every day, so that's why we're still open. We're still doing business. So you can send them in via mail. You can put new cases in via mail, but the in-person interviews for USCIS. So if you're a marriage visa or you have an interview for a green card or some other thing, an asylum case, those sorts of things that require you to go to immigration, biometrics appointments require you going to their field offices, and those are closed. Now, they were closed to April 7th, but they've extended that because it's April 8th, right, to May 3rd. All right, so May 3rd, they're talking about reopening it. They may have to extend it again. You don't know. But that's where we are on that. See, Nick Benson's out there. Nick Benson, the Associate Commissioner of Major League Rugby and a good guy. Mark Bell, went to grade school with Mark. We were part of Wishbone backfield, right? I was a quarterback. Mark was a running back along with Derek Newby, and we had Rowdy Richmond as our fullback. But we used to run the triple option like everybody did in Oklahoma in the 70s, and that was a lot of fun. It's great to see Mark out there. He's a really good dude, and hope he's doing well. Mike Stanaway, good to see you out there. So we've been talking about the coronavirus, immigration, the death of John Prine, and all this sort of stuff. So a couple things that we can talk about on immigration. So different visas have different scenarios, and you may or may not know this, but generally like the E1 or E2 visa, these are treaty investor visas, the L1, the O1, the TN, and the F1 visas are not location specific like the H1B is. So if you are told to work for home and you're still working, that shouldn't be a problem on your visas whatsoever. On the H1Bs, those are site specific. So an H1B is a professional visa. These are people that techies. I would be on an H1B visa. It's for anybody that has a job that requires a degree. Okay, so it can be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, engineer, managerial person. Those are a lot of people, right? And those ones, those visas are for specific employers in specific locations. Now, an exception is, and you probably know this if you're on one, is you can work within, move for commuting distances, right? So going back home, if you're within the same city is fine. In a different city may not be. Secondly, temporary locations, maneuvers are there. And some people are even saying the 60-day window, if you're out of status, would work as well. And they're not just using that for people who are being paid at a different location. So it should work out for you. If you have some questions about whether your case, right, we're talking about doctors being specific, lawyers too, your case may have a problem, private message me on here on Facebook, or go to our website, OnlineVisas.com, set up a schedule, send us a chat, whatever. We'll talk to you about that. So those are some things there you need to be aware of. Furloughing employees, we think it's going to be okay. We think the furlough is going to be okay. If they're paid while they're on furlough, definitely should not be a problem. There's been some discussion about that even in legislation Congress has passed. There's an ACWIA Act, right, in which Congress anticipated that H-1B employees would not be employed all of the time, right? And what they said is that the employers have to pay them all of the time so that they wouldn't be paid less than American workers. But they anticipated them not working all of the time. So this should fit into that without a problem. But again, if you need to know about that, contact me directly. We'll talk. So that's kind of that situation. What else we got? I got to put my eyeballs on. Sorry. Reduced hours, Department of Labor could come in if you're not, but 30 hours is still full-time, okay? So if you go from 40 to 30, you're still a full-time employee, so that shouldn't be a problem whatsoever. Salary reductions might, but again, immigration has not given full knowledge or full discussion to this. They haven't hey, here's our memo on COVID-19. They're just putting some blurbs out on their website, USCIS.gov. And so we can hope to extrapolate that, but as a lawyer, extrapolation when it comes to immigration doesn't always work. It doesn't mean because in this visa you do it like this and this other one you get to do it like that too. It doesn't. It's very specific. But what they've said is that if somebody has been laid off because of COVID-19, they can collect state or federal benefits, including Medicare and Medicaid, and not be determined to be a public charge on a case-by-case basis. So what that means in the future, when this thing blows over and nobody's scared and worried anymore, and someone's going in for an immigration visa and immigration's being a bit nasty, you're going to have to prove that it was the COVID-19 is the reason that you had to get the unemployment and not just because you got fired from stealing or something, right? So make sure your employer gives you a letter that says you got laid off or furloughed because of COVID-19. And if you're an employer, make sure you give those letters to your employees and you put one in a file, okay? Best thing would have them both signed. If you don't know what those letters need to say, contact me. I'll help you write them up. It's not a big deal. JT Thatcher's watching again, the great punt and kick returner from Oklahoma, and Greg Singleton. A great musician. I think all musicians died a little bit today, didn't they, Greg, with the loss of John Prine? I think anybody that played a guitar, especially an acoustic guitar, and sang on their own, had to be influenced or appreciated deeply John Prine and the way he went about it. So thinking of you, Greg, and all the other great musicians that we've known, and the loss of John Prine, we in the rugby world, he's been part of our family, but we know he's part of the music family too. and one of the best singers and songwriters you'll ever do. There's just some cadence to him that's just fantastic, and how he kind of sticks words on the end. And man, what a cool mind. That's all I can say, is the mind behind John Prine was simply fantastic, and that's really what it's all about. Another thing, here's another symptom coming in. Again, I don't represent undocumented immigrants. I can't help them, right? But I'm empathetic to them. I support them conceptually. I think they should be able to be treated like everybody else. And a matter of fact, I think we need to be a little more empathetic right now as a society, as we watch people go through this thing. And so, what do you do if you're an undocumented immigrant? Well, I found an article in... What was this in? Well, it's called "Here's How Undocumented Immigrants with Coronavirus Symptoms Get Tested in New Jersey" by Monse Alvarado in the NorthJersey.com. So a really interesting thing is that, if you're an undocumented immigrant, you're probably going to be afraid of... Hi, Anna Kaleva. Always great to see Anna. If you're an undocumented immigrant, you're going to be afraid of going and getting picked up. ICE is not slowed down. There is a lot of press out there about people in ICE facilities because it's running rampant in there, right? Like, you get put in a location with people that have the coronavirus, you're going to catch the coronavirus, right? I mean, it's not selective, and that's why people are told to stay away. So if you get put in a large population, and in some of these detention facilities, it's been what it's been the whole time with these guys. No masks, no sanitation, like they can't clean their hands, all the time like other people can. There's none of that kind of stuff there. I'm sure there's a little soap and water, but it's just a bad case. It probably is on all prison sort of facilities. And, we can go into the whole issue of whether or not these guys are prisoners or not. But at the end of the day, is people are still getting picked up. So people with the coronavirus that are undocumented are afraid to go to the doctors. But in New Jersey, they're being helpful to these folks. Now, New Jersey is one of the really big hot spots, right? It's the pandemic. It's the number 2 state in deaths in the coronavirus pandemic right now. So they're doing the right thing. So if you're from New Jersey, you might check in. But from any state, if you're undocumented or somebody's undocumented, have them reach out to the healthcare facilities. The law says right now that that testing of coronavirus is free, but the treatment isn't. Okay, so, but that's where, again, Medicaid might pop in. That's where the whole discussion on social medicine is coming in right now. This is when we need it. Right? We need it when it's out of control. We need to make sure that everybody's healthy if we can help them get that way. So little soapbox for the day. Feeling kind of sad with the passing of John Prine, and it was nice to see an old friend and skate around today. So hope you're doing well on this Weird Wednesday during the COVID pandemic. But take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Jon Velie, CEO, OnlineVisas.